Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my apartment. I didn't feel like putting up a backdrop today, so I just didn't. So this is where I live. There's my bed, there's my dog, there's my lights and my stuff, and yeah, this is what it is. So it finally came. I got my hands on the new Karen collection from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. Yes, I know it's called the Orgy collection, but let's be honest. Who ever thought that Jeffree Star would come out with an actual nude neutral collection? Earlier this year when he came out with the cremated collection, I was like, man, I've been waiting for so fucking long for this man to come out with an actual nude neutral palette, and everything was just so gray, and I really thought that was it. I was so surprised when I found out that this collection was going to be exactly what I've been wanting for and what I've been bitching about with this brand for the past, what, like 5 years now? Is that how long this brand has been around? Now, I didn't get the whole collection, but what I did get was the Orgy palette, the large palette, which you guys have already seen it. It's got 30 shades. They're all matte. They're all neutral. And there's also the mini Orgy palette, which is 9 like shimmer metallic shades. So I got both of those. And I also picked up 2 of the lip glosses, which we'll look at later. So let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to start out with the Orgy palette. I have not even swatched this yet. This just came today. I mean, I'm not a swatch guy anyway, but you know what I mean. Now, I will say that as far as the packaging goes on this, it's got like this soft touch, almost kind of like a rubbery feel to it. And it's already messy. When I opened it, I noticed that there was already some like kind of chunkiness or a little bit of fallout from some of these shades. Like you can see down here, the shade Orgy just kind of like got a little bit messy on the packaging. And then from me touching it and then closing the palette back up, I've already stained the front of it a little bit right here, if you can see that. Not a big deal. Makeup's gonna get messy if you're using it a lot. But again, I can see this packaging getting super dirty super quick. But as far as the color story goes, you guys have seen this already. We've got 30 shades, all neutrals, all mattes, and I like the way that it goes from the lightest to the darkest shades in a gradient. And again, you've got like your warm, you've got your cool, you've got yellow tones, you've got pink tones, you've got neutrals, you've got one that's more like a camel kind of color here. But if you're somebody like me that wants all of the transition shades, you want all of the colors that are gonna deepen up a look or kind of brighten up a look, you want those warms, you want those cools, you want those neutrals, you want everything in between, you've got everything right here. So let me go ahead and get a little bit of powder under my eyes because I'm sure there's going to be some fallout here. There's already fallout in the palette, and then we can get started. Okay, so I've got powder laid down, I've got my hair up because you know I'm already sweating and I haven't even started yet. What do I want to do today? So already as far as transition shades go, my eye is instantly drawn to the shade Bed or Floor. It looks to be in the pan anyway, a little bit more of that pinky kind of tone. And with my skin being so pink, a transition shade like this or tones like this just tend to be a little bit more flattering on my skin tone. So that's what we're gonna do today. And just like every other look I do, I'm gonna start by getting that right into the crease area to start my transition. And already I can tell that I'm gonna like that shade. It actually seems very similar to the shade Safe Word from the Androgyny palette. And actually, as far as Jeffree Star makeup goes, the only things that I've ever bought from his brand were the Beauty Killer palette, the Androgyny palette, and then Blood Sugar when it came out. When the Beauty Killer palette came out, I just wasn't drawn to that color story at all. So I just didn't get it when it came out. And then when Androgyny came out, I was super, super drawn to that one. And I ended up picking that up. I think it was a Black Friday sale. I ended up getting Androgyny and the Beauty Killer palette. And I don't think they were half off, but they were definitely discounted, which is the reason why I ended up picking up Beauty Killer, just because it was so cheap. Now, I definitely, as far as all of his releases go so far, I'm still, Androgyny is like the #1 for me. That's probably my favorite color story. Definitely it's my favorite color story of his brand. And it's definitely one of my favorite color stories from any makeup brand, actually. And again, this shade right here reminds me so much of Safe Word. I should actually swatch them right next to each other, and I'll insert some footage here. But no, I really like this as a transition shade. The formula seems really nice so far. It's really blendable, but again, we're working with like a lighter shade here. This is definitely more of a transition shade for me. So we'll see once we get into some of these deeper shades, if anything gets patchy or weird or anything like that. But so far, this is a really good one. And then with Blood Sugar, I did end up buying that the day that it was launched. And it's one of those where I don't even know that I was necessarily drawn to that color story, but it was one of those that it was so highly anticipated and I knew it was gonna sell out super fucking quick. So it was kind of like a, let me see if I can even get this kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I did end up going on the site about 3 minutes before the launch time. I was able to put 2 of them in my cart, and then by the time that I checked out, it was completely sold out. So it was kind of like I felt like I won a prize, you know what I mean? But honestly, the shades that I go to more often than anything else are the more kind of like neutral, the more like brown tones that are in that palette. I don't really go for the reds that much. There is a fly flying around all of these lights right now. You're probably gonna see it in this video. But again, I've been saying for so fucking long that I really wish that Jeffree Star would release just the most boring ass basic brown and neutral eyeshadow palette. Now I will say that at first I wasn't sure how I felt about it being just like this big palette of matte neutral colors. I was like, really? I've been waiting so long and that's what I got? And then again, you've got the 9-pan mini palette that has all of like the shimmers and metallics and all those shades in there. And I guess in my mind, I was really just kind of thinking maybe even something this size with this many shades in it, but kind of mix it and put it all together in one palette. You know, that's just kind of where my brain was going with it. And that's not what I got, and that's fine. Now, when I look at some of the shades in this palette, like when I look at Vanilla Latex or Voyeurism, Teach Me, some of those shades that are definitely more like that really light yellow kind of tone, I'm never gonna use those for anything, honestly. It's just probably not gonna happen. But overall, I feel like I could get a lot of use out of most of the shades in this palette. I'm pretty pumped about it and I'm glad to be using it. But yeah, that is the shade Bed or Floor, and I can definitely see myself hitting pan on this shade. That's a really good one. So then to deepen this up a little bit, I'm kind of torn between the 2 shades Body Chills and Scorpio. Now, people have said that there's a lot of redundancy in this palette, and I kind of agree, but I am happy to have variations, even if it's just like slight variations in tones like this. But for this look, I think I'm gonna go with my gut and dip into Scorpio, because that one is definitely calling to me the same way that Bed or Floor did. And there's definitely a lot of kick up in the pans here. So you're gonna wanna press your brush into the shade and then tap off a lot of the excess there. So let's go ahead and pack that into the outer corner here. And we're just gonna deepen up that crease. Now, something else that I've heard a lot of online is people not really liking the theming of this palette. I mean, it's called Orgy. You know, you've got shade names like Cunnilingus, which we all know what that is. Orgy, of course. Glory Hole, Fluffer, Knee Pads, Money Shot. You know, it's very porn. It's very sexually inspired. And again, I feel like that's very off-putting for a lot of people. And I mean, I get people not being into that, but for me personally, my sense of humor is very like gross and over the top. I grew up on John Waters movies and I listened to Lords of Acid a lot when I was a kid. And I mean, again, I think that just a lot of my entertainment that I grew up with is just very grossly sexual in nature. So I'm just kind of used to that kind of stuff in my entertainment. And so none of that stuff bothers me. Honestly, it kind of drew me to this collection even more. I don't know, I just like that kind of stuff. Like all the old John Waters movies were very sexually explicit. But again, it was done with like a sense of humor.
Makes me sick to see government employees looking at that filth, Marge. And the post office has the nerve to raise the price of a stamp.
While mailmen are beaten off everywhere. I found a used condom in my backyard.
You think that's bad? Somebody wrote the word boner on our parking lot wall last night.
And again, the band Lords of Acid, their music is so fun and so catchy and so techno and pop, but at the same time, their songs are literally all about fucking. And again, they're not even like beating around the bush. Like, they're very explicit in their lyrics and their content and their stage show and their presentation. And if that's not your thing and that's not what you're into and you're offended by it, don't buy it. But again, I like my entertainment to be like over the top and to push boundaries, and to get parents worried and to like cover their children's eyes and ears. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like if you want boring, if you want like family friendly, there's so much of that out there. And I mean, people don't like Jeffree Star for other obvious reasons. We all know that. But I think when it comes to like the theming of makeup, I mean, he's always gonna push those boundaries. I mean, everybody was mad a few months ago when he came out with the cremated palette, which was just kind of like bad timing with everything that was going on in the world. And obviously, this is gonna push boundaries with like really overt sexual theming. But again, it's not for everyone. You know, let the people that want it enjoy it. And then if you don't want it, don't buy it, don't pay attention to it, just ignore it and, you know, move on with your life, you know? And honestly, I think there's a big problem with people paying too much attention to stuff that they don't like instead of focusing on the stuff that they do really like, you know what I mean? If you don't like something, then just, you know, don't pay any attention to it, you know? If you don't like Jeffree Star and you don't want to hear about him, you don't want to look at him, you don't want to see his makeup products in use, you know, click out of this video. And that's fine. Not everything is for everybody, you know? But I gotta say, so far, this look is boring as hell, and I'm here for it. I really like these colors so far. All right, so for my darkest shade I'm gonna use the shade Orgy here. I'm really drawn to that one. It's a really nice dark coffee color. At least that's the way it comes off in the pan. We'll see how that goes on the eyes. I'm taking that on a pencil brush, and I don't want to get too crazy because I don't want really dark eyeshadow to just kind of explode out everywhere. So I want to keep that really close to the lash line, and then I can kind of blend it out as I need to. I feel like every generation has like their entertainment villain, you know what I mean? So like back in the 70s, you had Alice Cooper, and even Kiss. They were considered satanic and they were so dangerous, you know what I mean? And then in the 80s, you had Ozzy Osbourne, who had been around throughout the 70s anyway in Black Sabbath. But then when he bit the head off a dove, you know, that created like a whole other world of, you know, now you've got dudes that are like biting the heads off living things, and he must be stopped and save our children and everything else. And then in the 90s, when I was a teenager, I was really into Marilyn Manson, and oh my God, he was so like, you know, he was the Antichrist, you know, it was like Antichrist superstar and the whole nine yards. I mean, he was tearing Bibles up on stage, and there were religious groups outside of the theaters, you know, just like praying and protesting and everything else. And it's been a long time since we've had a villain like that in the music industry, but then the music industry has changed so much over the last like 10, 20 years, especially with the internet. And I mean, everything has changed in the past like 10, 15 years. And now all of our celebrities are internet celebrities, and there's that fine line between like entertainment and reality now. I feel like the lines have really been blurred because people's real lives are the entertainment now. And I don't know, I just feel like we live in such a weird place. And I'm not trying to make excuses for anything that he's done or said or anything like that. In fact, I'm not sure exactly what I'm trying to say. Except for maybe, wouldn't it be funny if in like 20 years after like he hasn't really been like a big, huge celebrity the way that he is now, if he ended up with one of those like reality TV shows, the way that again, like Ozzy Osbourne, Gene Simmons, you know, like those entertainment villains that we had that we were so afraid of or we thought were so bad like years and years ago, as it turns out later in life is just like this family man with like, you know, kids and a wife, or well, in his case, a husband, you know what I mean? And then ends up becoming almost like America's sweetheart. I just think it would be so weird if that happened. It could. I mean, if enough time goes by and he's able to apologize, change, redeem himself. Again, random thoughts coming out of my brain today. I've drank an entire pot of coffee and have not had much food. So this is where we're at right now. All right, I've got to say that so far I am a huge fan fan of this palette. Again, I know that it's really redundant. I know that it's a lot of brown, but I feel like there's so much going on in here, and I feel like there is a transition shade for everyone. There is a deeper, darker shade for pretty much every look, because again, you've got warm tones, you've got cool tones, you've got neutrals, and you've got every varying tone along the way. Honestly, I think this is going to be that one palette that I reach for over and over again, because I'm going to be able to use this with everything else in my collection. So I popped off of here really quick to put some coffee pencil on my waterline, and it is pretty much the exact same shade as Orgy, so I'm glad that there is an eyeshadow that's the exact same color as my favorite waterline pencil, so good to go there. Let's go ahead and add some shimmer or some metallic to this lid here, and this is the mini Orgy palette. Now, you know what's funny about the packaging here is if you look at the front and the back, I'm sure that a lot of people see this and they think Orgy. You know what I mean? I'm not seeing an Orgy on this packaging. You know what I see on this packaging? I see a bunch of people laying down, taking a nap, possibly after an orgy. Like, they're all literally just sleeping. Again, if I walked into an orgy and I saw everybody kind of like sprawled out like this, I'd like probably turn around and leave, because I would assume that I got there late and I missed out on all the fun. So there's that. So yeah, this is a 9-pan palette. We've got all of our shimmers and metallics here. There is one shade that for me is gonna be like an inner corner highlight. There's some golds, there's some champagne, there's a taupe, there's some deeper browns. There's a shade in the middle here, which I guess it's like a duochrome, because when I look at it one way, I see kind of like a golden tone, but when I look at it the other way, it's definitely pink. It's called Frozen Fire. When I first saw this online, I was like, why'd they put a metallic red in there? But that's not what it's looking like in real life. And I'm not usually one to do swatches or really care about swatches, but I guess it's kind of hard to get a real read for what these shades are gonna look like the way that they're pressed in the pan. So I think I do want to just kind of dip my finger into a few of these shades just to see what they look like on my skin. We've got Champagne Drip, Gagging. Go ahead and take a look at those. Gagging isn't really picking up a whole lot. There's those. So there's Champagne Drip, Gagging. I'm kind of interested to see what Foam Party looks like. Oh, Foam Party kind of feels different, actually. So that's Foam Party. I don't know. I guess that none of these are really picking up super exciting, not only on camera, but in real life. I don't know if I was expecting these to be like super metallic or really reflective, but they're definitely very bare, very nude, very Karen, very probably exactly what I asked for. So I'm not gonna complain. I'm just gonna play around and see what I like, see what works. I think I'm gonna start with the shade Eiffel Tower here, which is the darkest of these shades. And it looks kind of like maybe a chocolate kind of brown. Maybe it has a little bit of like a red reflect to it a little bit. And just kind of pressing that into the outer half of the lid, not all the way into the corner there, because I do want to keep that pretty matte and pretty dark. Although this is one of those shades that it's got a little bit of reflect to it, but it's not so metallic that I feel like you probably could use this shade in the crease area and it would work. It's not so reflective and it's not so metallic that it would look goofy if you used it in the crease or anything, but that's not where I want to use it today. Yeah, the shade Foam Party almost feels really dry, so we'll see if that even really picks up or goes on. I think that this shade probably will do a little bit better on top of a stickier base, like a glitter primer or something like that, if you really want to see. Yeah, I don't know if that is really doing all that much. I don't know if this shade is really doing anything for this particular look, and I can already tell that the pan is kind of sealed up a little bit, which for me was always a problem with his highlighter formula. I felt like his highlighters definitely got sealed pan as soon as you touched them. Let me see if picking it up with a brush helps at all. I mean, it's still picking up on the brush, but I'm definitely getting a little bit of that sealed pan thing happening here. And it almost looks like the shadow's starting to crumble a little bit too. Yeah, I don't know. That's really just kind of looking like nothing to me, to tell you the truth. I'm almost thinking of kind of warming things up a little bit, because I feel like if I don't, things are just going to look a little bit muddy. So I think I am going to go in with the Soaking Sun color, which is this gold. Oh yeah, that one definitely feels a little bit better. This is like a nice metallic kind of shade. Picking that up on my finger. And then let me just go ahead and press that in. And that one's doing a little bit better. I feel like that one is showing up a little bit better, probably mostly because it's like a warm tone against all of the more kind of neutral to cool tones that I have going on here. But I will say, I don't know if it's because the matte formula is so powdery that the shimmer tones just don't want to adhere over top. But I don't know that the mattes and shimmers are really working that well together. Can you guys see that? For like the intensity that I get out of that shade on my finger, for how metallic that is, when you go to lay it over top of another shadow, it's just not layering that well. See, there's barely anything on the lid there, but there's still plenty of it on my finger. Let's try it with a brush and see what happens. Yeah, there's just not a lot happening there. Again, this is kind of how I always do my makeup, and the only thing that I did differently today is used a different palette. It's not like I'm using a different method than I normally do. I just don't know if this metallic formula is any good, to tell you the truth. Yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna have to use a glitter primer with that one. I've got the NYX glitter primer, which is at the very end of its life. That thing is starting to happen where it's squirting out of the side instead of out of the tip. Can you see that? Yeah, that's what happens when you get to the end of a NYX glitter primer. I've gotta say that I feel like Jeffree Star really toots his own horn when it comes to the formula of his eyeshadows. But there have been several instances where I've played around with his eyeshadow formula and just been kind of like... So I'm gonna pat some glitter primer on the lid. Now I'm gonna go back into Soaking Sun, just because, again, I felt like this one should have done really well and it didn't. Let's go ahead and pop that. Yeah, see, that's what that needed. Just needed a little glitter primer. And again, I'm fine with doing that anyway. That's just kind of how I prefer to wear shimmery or metallic tones. I think they just do better over top of a sticky base, but I don't think that it should be necessary in order for a shadow to work. And in this case, it's definitely necessary for that shade to work. Okay, so that's actually got me wondering if Eiffel Tower, which is the shade that I use out here in the outer part of my lid, I wonder if it would do any better. I wonder if it would be more like shimmery if I put that over top of a glitter primer as well. So I'm gonna try that out too. Pack a little bit of that glitter primer, so a little bit right in there. I'm gonna take that on my finger this time and just kind of press that in and see if that looks any different. No, yeah, maybe a little bit, but I feel like Eiffel Tower is definitely more of like a satin shade than it is a metallic, which is fine. I think that that kind of blends into that gold shade really nice, actually. Yeah, the base of that really does kind of look powdery on my finger there. I guess when you turn your finger and you kind of move it around, you see that shift, but it's definitely not a metallic. So if that's what you're expecting out of this shade, then you're gonna be disappointed. But honestly, I could see myself using that shade in the same way that I would use Vanity from the Beauty Killer palette. It's just kind of very similar, like a very, very dark brown that's not just brown. It's not just black, you know what I mean? All right, so I guess as far as the inner corner goes, I was gonna use Glass Wet, but that's not gonna make any sense with what I have going on here now. So I think that for like inner corner, I'm gonna use the shade Gagging. Now, just from dipping my finger in that, I know that is not gonna work on its own. So I came prepared with a pencil brush and some more glitter glue. And I am going to pop that right there where I want to lay this shade down. Kind of blend that into this gold shade on the lid here a little bit, I think. And then I'm gonna dip into that shade Gagging, which is like a warm champagne kind of tone, it looks like. I think the shade might have just a touch of pink to it as well, like a pink champagne. Right over top. Yeah, see, oh man. Whoa. I don't think I've ever had a powder eyeshadow burn my eye before, but I think that's kind of happening right now, to tell you the truth. Does that eye look red? Yeah, definitely is not super comfortable if it gets fluffed into your eye a little bit, which, I mean, I've put a lot of powder eyeshadow in my eye over the years, and I've never had one kind of burn my eye the way that that one did, so that is very interesting and very new. Can you tell that I'm not at all impressed with this mini palette? I don't know how much use I'm gonna get out of this palette, or if I'm going to even keep this palette, to tell you the truth. I'm loving the matte one so far, though. I mean, from what I've used, I definitely will get a lot of use out of that one, but I don't know if I'm feeling this little mini guy or not. I think a shade like this would be a really pretty highlighter color, like a face highlighter, because it's like, it's a great tone, but again, it's very soft, it's very subtle. Even over top of a, oh my God, that burns. Holy shit. Yeah, can you see how watery my eyes are? And they're definitely red. And this didn't start happening until I started using the shade Gagging. So beware of gagging. Let me locate a brush for highlighting here. And I'm gonna dip into that same shade. Yeah, this pan is getting destroyed. Can you see? I mean, just from the little bit that I've used, it's just kind of crumbling and falling apart almost. So anyway, let's see if that might work up here on the cheekbones. Meh, that's not really doing much of anything. Let's see if stamping it into that area makes any kind of a difference. I don't know. It might be reading on camera even just a little bit more shimmery and a little bit prettier. Where in real life, I don't really see much at all of that shade. So that is enough frustration for one day. Let me curl the lashes, get some mascara on. We can come back and play with this lip gloss and see if we like this any more than we like this. Okay, so mascara is on. I'm actually really liking the way that this looks. Again, I think that over top of a glitter primer, these shades do work. And just the way that it all came together, the way that everything's looking now that my hair's down, mascara's on and all that, I really like the way that it looks, but it definitely was a little bit frustrating with those shimmery tones. So now that I've got myself a little bit settled down, let's move on to the lips. I'm actually really excited about the lip glosses because you guys know that I love lip gloss anyway, and I love nudes. And for me, with the previous launches of the Jeffree Star lip glosses, I always feel like even the more like wearable, like nude shades, there's always some element of weird to them that just kind of make them look unwearable to me. Like they have like a weird kind of like gray shift to them or whatever it is. But with this collection, the nudes just looked like something that I would wear. Definitely a few of them. So I did pick up two. I got the shades Body Count and I got Pretzel Drip. Now Body Count just basically looks like a standard run-of-the-mill kind of nude shade that I would wear, like a light nude with a gold shift to it. Pretzel Drip, it definitely is the more kind of like showy one. So it looks like a little bit warmer of a nude with definitely a more intense kind of golden sparkle to it. I'm gonna go in with Body Count first, only because I don't want the intense shimmer of this one to be left behind before I put this one on. Now I will say this about the packaging. This whole weird over the top, whatever the fuck this is supposed to be, this bothers me about the packaging. I wish it was just that. I just like a very minimalistic component. I'm used to the MAC lip glass kind of shape. Very basic, very kind of boring. This to me is just, it's a little too much up here. I don't even know if these have a doe foot, if they have a brush applicator, what's going on in here. So I want to be really careful pulling that out, because I know that I said this in a video a long time ago, but when somebody pulls out a doe foot and they wipe it on the inside of the lip gloss tube, it totally creeps me out. I hate it. I think it's because I carry these around in my pocket of my pants. And so inevitably there's gonna be lint that kind of gets stuck somewhere. I don't know, I just don't like there to be a mess on the inner rim of my lip gloss tubes. So I'm always very careful to pull them out without scraping the doe foot along the edge. It's just me. It's just me being weird. It smells really good. I've never smelled the Jeffree Star lip glosses, so I really like the way that that smells. Let's see what that looks like on. Yeah, so far, yeah. It's definitely a creamier gloss formula. It doesn't have the stickiness that the MAC lip gloss has, which you guys know, that doesn't bother me at all anyway. But just in case you've never tried this formula before, it's not at all sticky. It's really smooth and really glidey across the lips. So this is definitely the kind of nude lip gloss that I like to wear. The tone of it's just right, you know what I mean? It's not very opaque. It's definitely very sheer, which is fine. That's kind of what I expect in a lip gloss. So that I'm really liking a lot, actually. And yeah, I can definitely see myself wearing this all the damn time. I just wish it didn't have this big ugly thing on the top of it. It looks so gaudy. But anyway, there's that one. That's Body Count, and I really like the way that that looks. Again, I like the way it feels too. It's great. So let me wipe that one off really quick, and we can move on to Pretzel Drip. And let's go ahead and try out Pretzel Drip. That one definitely looks different in person than it looks online. This one in real life almost has more of that, like the middle shade in this 9-pan palette, where it's almost like pinky to look at it one way and then orangey to look at it a different way, which again, you're not going to capture any of that on camera. But in real life, this one has a little bit more of that. Probably a little bit more pinky than I thought it was going to be. But again, this one is very, very sheer. It's still very pretty. I think that this one is going to be a little bit better as like a topper, where the other one I would definitely wear on its own. I would wear this one on its own too. But I feel like if you really want to see this the way that it looks in the tube on your lips, I think that you're going to want to go in with like a liquid lipstick, something that's going to be very opaque, something that's going to be a base to lay this down on top of, because just on its own, on top of your natural lips, it's pretty, but it definitely doesn't have the intensity that it looks like it's going to have in the tube. And that is Pretzel Drip on the lips. And then to finish out this video, I went back to body count because this one is definitely more my speed. I'm definitely going to go through this one. I like that shade a lot. Now for the final thoughts on this collection. Again, as far as the theming goes and everything around, like, you know, the orgy and the over-sexualized kind of like imagery and shade names and all that, I'm here for it. I love it. That's my sense of humor. The theming doesn't bother me at all. And if it bothers you, don't buy it. As far as the makeup itself goes, since we just ended on the lip gloss, we'll go ahead and talk about that first. I love the formula. It's creamy, it's smooth. If you like a lip gloss that isn't sticky, you're really gonna like this formula. They smell really good. I'm glad that he finally came out with nude shades that are just a nice wearable nude without any kind of like weird like blue reflect or like grays or just things to kind of, you know, make them weird for the sake of being weird. These are really pretty. They're really wearable. I wish that he would cut this shit off and just have like a basic lip gloss tube. But again, that's just personal preference and that has nothing to do with the product itself. As far as the eyeshadow goes, I fucking love this. Again, I only use 3 shades out of it, but just looking at the shades in real life in person, there's just so much going on here. You've got warm tones, you've got cool tones, you've got shades for people with olive tone skin. Now, does everybody need every single shade in this palette? No, because there's definitely shades that I'm personally not going to use either, but I'm glad to have all of these kind of shades all in one place, and I'm definitely gonna reach for this probably every day. I really, really love it. I think the quality is great. I think the variety is great, and I'm gonna use this over and over again. I'm super happy with the large palette. Now, when it comes to the mini orgy palette, you know how I said that the artwork looks like everybody is asleep after the orgy? Yeah, so the eyeshadows inside this palette totally fell asleep as well. It's definitely a theme here. Guys, this one sucks. I'm not gonna lie. As far as, I mean, I did create a pretty look. That gold really did pop over top of a glitter primer. But I mean, that color on my inner corner, it's pretty much, I mean, it's not that it's gone, it's just that it didn't do much. And I feel like, I don't know, it's like hard to pick up these shades. I definitely hit hard pan on Foam Party and it's wanting to crumble on the outer edge. Gagging, it's definitely crumbling. It got a little hard pan on it. Eiffel Tower's okay, but I could have done without it. This shade in the middle I'm never gonna use. I have a million golds. And I've seen some swatches of these shades online and I've heard people say that they're very underwhelming. This is even more underwhelming in real life. I would definitely I would completely avoid this palette. I don't think that I'm ever gonna use this again. I think that I'm definitely gonna give this away. I'm just never gonna use this. So this is a complete dud. Save your money. Don't buy this one. It's not any good. I'm sorry, it's just not. Don't sleep on this. I feel like this has everything that you need as far as boring, matte, neutral tones, light tones, transitions, darker shades to deepen up a look. I think that this is gonna be very versatile, and I'm gonna get a lot of use out of this. But it is what it is. It's got cool theming as far as I'm concerned. We've got a great matte neutral everyday palette. I've got a palette I'm gonna give away. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my purchase. I think that it worked out pretty well. I think I created a pretty nice look here today. What do you guys think? Did you buy this palette? Did you buy anything from this collection? Do you hate it? Do you hate Jeffree Star? Do you hate me? If you're still here, let me know how you feel about it in the comments down below. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.